Hi y'all, Easy Slider here. I want to marry my long distance partner. What do I do next? Well, certainly not what you think. You know, having a long distance relationship partner is totally unlike preparing to marry a Western woman, I can tell you that. Now, if you'll spare me just a minute, I'm going to share a little story with you that in the long run, this story is going to kind of help you out because I can make a point. I bought a camera, which I'm using right now, and on that camera, it has a side door that you open up and plug in a cable. The door gets in the way a little bit, but it says you can take the door off, and sure enough, it popped right off, and I was able to put the cable in, use it. It's great. But then, when I decided to reconnect the door, whoa, it was just like impossible. I could never get it connected, and I was afraid I was going to end up breaking it. You know, so finally I went online, and I saw that the other people were having the same problem. But there was a simple trick showing you how to connect the door. That's right, a simple trick. And you're probably saying, Slider, how in the world does putting the door back on the camera relate to an LDR marriage? Well, I'll tell you, the key word is trick. And starting on your road to marriage, it's so easy to head off in the wrong direction. And when you do, I can tell you it's going to cost you a loss of time, and it's going to cost you a loss of money. It's very easy to make a mistake, and it costs you 2 or 3 or 4 months to recover from that mistake, okay? But if you know the trick, it's much easier because you know which direction to go in. Later in the video, we're going to be talking about the trick. Let's just assume at this point you've been talking to her a while, and you maybe even met her. We'll talk about that later. From this point on, there'll be many things, many decisions that you're going to need to make, and that's going to tell you which direction you're going to go in. Some of the things that you're going to be doing has a time limit, some of them don't have a time limit, okay? We're going to learn about that. Right now, I think probably starting off at the basics is the best place to start. I hope by now you spent a lot of time talking to her and y'all have been learning about each other. You know, it's not like meeting a woman in the West because of the distance involved. Everything you know about her has probably been learned while you've been talking to her online. You hadn't met her face to face. Before you make the huge I want to marry you plunge, okay, it's going to be best to actually meet her face to face and fill in the gaps that talking online has left. Also, I want to let you know it is a requirement to meet her face to face before your paperwork for marriage can be approved. And there is a time limit. You're required to meet face to face, and once again, remember, you have to prove everything. Remember in a previous video I spoke about making sure that you qualify and that she qualifies, and everything you need to know has to be proved. You have to meet her, you have to send proof, and you have to send that proof with some of the paperwork you're filling out, okay? If memory serves me right, you've got about 2 years there. Let me use an example. If you meet her today and you don't start filing your paperwork till 3 years later, no, it's null and void and you're going to have to pay for it again. You need to get your meeting her and your paperwork filed within a 2-year framework. You know, you want to make sure that she's eligible and everything, and I'm going to put that reminder video at the bottom or at the end of the video. And after you make sure that's what you want, then there's some questions that need to be answered. Remember, these questions are going to guide you to what you're going to be doing next. Be sure to follow me through the whole video because there's a lot of stuff that can be very confusing. You know, some of this will be shared later too. A critical question that you have to ask and get the answer to is, where do you want to get married? Her country or your country? And this is going to make a big difference in everything that you do, okay? If you plan to get married in her country, it can be done really fast, probably a couple of weeks. If you plan to marry in your country, it can take anywhere from 8 months to several years. And the time frame depends on how busy the people are that's processing your paperwork. Now, I'll give you a little example there. When I first started, my LDR was in China, okay? And the Chinese people just wouldn't work with me very well. They were so slow. And you would fill in everything, you would send in your paperwork, and then before they'd let you take the next step, that paperwork was already expired. You had to file it again, and it was just costing you more and more money. When they get back into the Philippines, things go a lot smoother. Okay, so it's simple, right? Just marry her in her country. What's the big deal? You got the answer. Ho, ho, ho. Hold on there, Rabbit. Don't hop to that conclusion just yet. Let's answer more questions. You might have known, right? You want to make sure of some of the things you need to do. Like I said, do you plan to marry her and stay in her country? Or do you plan to marry her and bring her home? Kind of a rule here. If you plan to marry her and stay in her country and not bring her back here to your country, then it's okay. Go ahead and marry her in the Philippines or wherever. If you plan to bring her home, then do not marry her in her country. Here's why. To bring her back to the United States, you and her have to fill out paperwork to get her cleared to come here. If you marry her in the Philippines, then you're skipping the paperwork, which is required to get her back to the United States. No paperwork, and she's not allowed into the United States to live, even if you're married. Remember that. It's not to say that she couldn't come later. It only means that before she could come over to the United States and live with you, she's going to be required to fill out paperwork and get it cleared. This is kind of a reverse way of doing it, and trying to deal with the United States when you live in a foreign country, whoa, that ain't easy, okay? This is the trick. The key point here. If you plan to marry her and bring her here to live, it's best you do it the slow way and get her cleared before you marry her and try to bring her back to the United States. And yes, there's a time limit on marriage also. When she is cleared to come after she gets here, you have to marry her within 90 days of the time she arrives, or back home. The key to the puzzle is knowing marrying her in her country is a deception. It seems like it's a lot faster, but it is not faster, okay? Every man that I've ever talked to, which have been a good many of them, say that if you marry her in her country, it adds about 1 year to the process. Meaning if you took a year to get her processed and brought her here, and got her here in a year, that'd be great. If you did the same exact thing in her country, the process would be 2 years. In the following videos, we're going to be talking more about regulations that are required, time limits, and other things that no one's telling you. So be sure and follow close to learn the tricks, because those tricks are going to make it a lot easier for you, I can guarantee you. Where do I find requirements for a long-distance relationship marriage? Oh, wow. Nobody mentioned that. Well, as soon as it's posted, let's just slide on over to that video.